28 months down, yeah, the industry's been bruised, but we're not here to fold, we're here to refuse. While others pause, we built the plays, now we're leading the charge in a brand new phase. You feel that tension, that's the pressure to grow. Hiring's messy, turnovers high and budgets low, but we don't panic, we adapt. We sharpen the edge and reload the map. This is the Staffing Playbook, strategy on tap. Steven brings the grit, G-Money brings the slap. Forget the fluff, forget the spin. We give you plays that actually win. From the break room floor to the boardroom seat, we've walked the walk, now we bring the heat. CDLs, forklifts, line leads, and execs. We place the best and fix the wrecks. Insight, hustle, leadership bold. No safe takes, just the truth told cold. Wanna scale your team, wanna close that gap. We got the data, the story, and the roadmap. So turn it up, lock it in. This is more than a podcast, it's a win. This is the Staffing Playbook. Let's get to work, it starts right now.
Let's get to work. It starts right now. Welcome back, everyone, to the Staffing Playbook Podcast. This is episode 41. I'm your host, Steve Farrell, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Genevieve Bourgeois. How are you doing?
Oh, I am great. You know, I keep thinking every time we do these episodes, it's like, we got like the best guest ever. It can't get any better. And then we find this guy just hanging around the corner somewhere. And, you know, he happens to be in the staffing industry. David, how you doing, my friend?
Good. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. So I got your private chat there. You said I hadn't seen the intro. Amazing.
Every time I hear money with the slap.
I heard the song on Spotify, and then I had not seen the video to go along with it. So nice.
Thank you. Well, we've got a special treat today. We've got David Folwell here. He's the president of Staffing Referrals, which is actually a proud sponsor of the Staffing Playbook Podcast. He's the founder of Staffing Hub, and he's the host of his own podcast called The Staffing Show, streaming on all podcast platforms. If you're not a subscriber to The Staffing Show, you need to subscribe. David brings a lot of thought leaders from the business onto a show, pulls out all the tactics, interviews them. Just a fantastic podcast. So go check out The Staffing Show if you're not a subscriber already. David, what did I miss with the introduction? I know you're just a jack of all trades. You're doing a lot of things out there.
Got a lot of things moving. I think you dialed it in. So been in the staffing industry for a bit, and always in with a focus on how do I help the partners that I work with grow faster. Used to have a marketing agency, was doing marketing for both the tech suppliers and the staffing firms, and then saw kind of a gap in the market where people were getting a lot of referrals, but not using software to manage it, and started this, it's like 8 years ago now. I've been on it full time for about 4 years, and we've just been moving forward. So it's really excited to be on the podcast with you guys.
Well, we're excited to have you here. David, we had an event recently, a few weeks ago. It was just an idea in the beginning where, I'm just talking to different sales leaders from different, staffing agencies. And, I'm asking like, are you having the same problems we are? And of course, yeah, we're all having a lot of the same problems. And, wouldn't it be nice just to like bring everyone together? Let's take the competitor hat off and let's just be colleagues and talk about the industry and what we're seeing out there. Let's talk about what's working, what's not. Just get great minds together to just bring all of us up together. And so that was the initial thought. I wasn't sure how to execute it, and that quickly morphed into a full 4-hour conference where we had you fly in and participate and also present. And I was curious, what were some of your aha moments? What did you like about the event? Because we're thinking about doing another one maybe in Q4. But if you completely hated it, Dave, we'll scratch that.
Well, I think it was a great event, and I think that the industry needs to connect and open up and share. I think we've been last 2.5 years have been challenging for a lot of people in the staffing industry, depending on what vertical you're in, what type of staffing you're doing. And I think that the kind of opening up and saying, here's what we're dealing with, here's how we're dealing with it, recognizing that while you might compete day to day, it's also looking at how do we as an industry improve, level up, and show up for our customers, create more value. And I think that the event was great. I think you did a nice job of there's some deep insights into tactics that I think a lot of people should be aware of and be using in their day to day. I think you're doing some unique things. I think it was great that you opened up and shared that.
John Viev, I'm glad he didn't say, but also you had a 145 page PowerPoint.
It was a
I do not
PowerPoint.
For any marketers out there, okay, do not let your salespeople know that you're good at PowerPoint, okay? Because a few slides, oh, hey, I updated just a few slides. It was really an additional 40. Oh, Stephen almost got the Lady G money slap.
Yeah.
But we didn't even get through all of it. However, there was a lot of valuable content out there. And right now, I think one of the biggest things that we were trying to do is share some of what we're doing, right? Because even in the past few years, COVID totally changed the game for so many different industries, especially staffing.
Yeah.
Right. And so staffing has been down for what, 31 months now?
31 months for most people.
Yeah. And the thing is, technology is changing. People are wanting different things. And this is how it's like, hey, you got to go do your value add. You got to be social selling. You need to be communicating. And we did bring in a lot of phenomenal insights that we got from everything that we did with all of the HR leaders and all those podcasts.
Yeah. So David, we shared this with you. We brought in, over 30 HR leaders into a room for, 3 separate days. And, we presented to them what's actually going on in the workforce today and what that looks like tomorrow, just in the next 5 years. And how are you preparing for this major shift in the market? One of those things is 80% of all workforce exits in 2020 were those that were 55 years or older. And since 2020, you've got this aging boomer generation, as well as the older Gen X. You've got 10,000 people reaching retirement age every single day. And with that, they're leaving with that institutional knowledge. They're taking that with them. And so, how do we equip our customers to prepare for this mass exit that's already underway, and how do we deal with this emerging workforce? 30% of the workforce over the next 4 years will encompass Gen Z, right? Mm-hmm. Gen Z will be reaching that age where they're going to represent 30% of the workforce, and they like to be managed and led quite differently than us millennials and Gen X. And so bringing all that information into the Sales Summit to talk about, hey, it not only does affect our business, but the customers we're servicing, like, this is top of mind for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the industry is evolving faster than it ever has. And I think with between the demographic shifts and then the technology changes, when you have AI automation coming into play, the expectations from candidates in terms of how they engage with your agencies, and then also your customers. Your customers have more access to more tools and can hire in different ways than they've ever been able to. So I think that this is one of those moments in the industry where adaptation is going to be the what drives future growth and adjusting to what your customers need.
Yeah, I know you're the expert in this. I mean, you create the staffing hub, staffing report. What do you call that?
The state
state of staffing report, which is phenomenal. Yeah. Go download it off the staffing hub. So I know you're getting all of this data and you're learning what it means. You're interpreting it. I'm just looking at, I want to get your perspective on why why in the last couple of years, when we have an uptick in jobs, right? You have a lower unemployment rate. Staffing always follows the trends. If employment's up, staffing jobs are up. If employment goes down, staffing job goes down. But that hasn't been happening, has it?
It has shifted quite a bit, and I don't claim to understand exactly what's going on, but I think there's some major trends that are happening. I think how people are hiring is changing. The access to, everybody has access to Indeed. Indeed is selling to our customers in a way that hasn't happened previously. There's also more AI platforms that help with the hiring process and there's AI interviewing tools out there that are working with the Fortune 500 companies and doing millions and millions of interviews and taking some of that manual labor that I think the staffing industry was known for facilitating off the plate. So I think there's a technology shift. There's access to different tools, and then I also think that there's I should have more data on this, but I know there's people shifting to perm hire or having uncertainty about who to hire, because I think there's been more uncertainty in the market than there has been previously.
Yeah, you mentioned the technology piece and the AI. I think that's certainly playing into staffing spend. There's just easier ways now for these companies to just hire on their own and not have to use a staffing agency. I hate even hearing the words coming out of my mouth with that sentence I just said, but our customers are adapting. They're changing. They're looking at the future. They're looking at the technology, and they're looking at ways to streamline these processes and their hiring and retention strategies, and leveraging their own resources and less of these agencies. And you always want to be ahead of your customers' problems and solve those problems before they do, right? And so if we're not staying ahead of the trends with AI and with these apps and being able to hire quickly, they're already working on it. So if they get there first, you're not relevant anymore.
Yeah, there's an onslaught of tools, and it's confusing the market because there's so many options and they're coming to market so quickly. But there's also some that are having a really big impact. I heard talking to an agency the other day that said through their automation AI that they used to have new recruiters would submit, I think it was like 6 submissions a week. And with the new tools, they were up to 35.
Whoa.
And that was because they're automatically processing, screening, interviewing. They had that, those tools in place. So I think that honestly, the foundation of the business model is going to change. And one of the things that I've shared a bunch of times, but I keep thinking about, it's just stuck in my head, is that and I don't remember, it's probably Sam Altman who said this, but they expect in the next few years that there's going to be a 1 or 2 person company that is worth $1 billion, because they are going to build it around AI agents. And that concept, I can't break free of just thinking about what that looks like and how that operates. And I know we're still right at the edge of agentic, but we are, and it's not great in a lot of use cases yet. And it's easy to pick it apart. It's easy to talk about the downside of it. And I don't think it's going to replace staffing. I don't think it's going to replace all the recruiters, but I do think it's going to change our lives and our work approach to work quite a bit.
Well, so here's the thing with last week's episode. We were having this conversation with AI and how people and staffing agencies, they are actually using it. They're building out AI agents, and it is helping reduce, like you mentioned, that labor, like that manual labor, okay, which is helping them save time. So instead of it being like 5 or 6 people being submitted a week, they're getting closer to 30, 35.
Yep.
It's AI's here.
Yeah.
And we have to go and shift the entire foundation of the business model of how staffing is working and how it's going to move, and it's got to constantly be evolving.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to evaluate your value chain. How do you create value for your customer? Look at specifically what are the elements that they're paying you for, and what changes with the kind of adoption of new AI and automation tools? Because I think the value chain is going to shift. I've been saying this for years on the staffing show, is that it reminds me of the travel industry. Before this, I helped launch a company called Hotel Engine. Spent a lot of time deeply researching what was going on in the travel industry and how it changed over the years. And I don't think this is a whole lot different. We used to have travel agencies, and there were lots of travel agencies, and there still are quite a few, but the roles shifted drastically with Expedia and these other major online booking.com. It shifted the entire market. It's a different approach to how things work. And I think that the staffing industry is moving in that direction. It's still a bigger decision. You want a little bit more hand holding, but 5 years ago, people were like, oh, you're never going to be able to do this without a person. Everybody's going to want to talk to somebody at some point. And now, there's tools out there where people are placing themselves. And I think that these shifts are happening. I think it all comes down to, the change in the travel industry was getting rid of the information asymmetry. And I think that same thing is happening here, where it's like you can have all of the information out there, you can build the platform and build those connections. So I think we're in a really exciting time, which I think is opening up an unbelievable opportunity for those that are leaning in and leaning forward. And I also think for those that are expecting our world to be the same a year or 2 years from now and to just keep running the same playbook, I think that's going to change. So, and I think you guys are aware of that. It's why I think maybe even why the Staffing Playbook exists. So you can come here, you can figure out exactly what you need to do to actually grow. Because one of the things I was excited to talk to you about originally, Steve, when we first met, is you guys are growing this year. You have plenty of job orders. You have growing job orders in a market where most people haven't figured that out. And it's because you're doing things differently and you're adopting a modern toolkit and tool set and strategy for sales. That's some of what you shared at the conference.
Yeah, you can let the change happen to you, or you can be part of that change, and you can create that change. And I don't want to get too futuristic here on AI, because we could go for hours on this. But we're in June, almost approaching July in 2025. Staffing industry is still down, right? Over last year, which was a horrific year since like the Great Recession. And so what we talked about in the summit, what you shared, that this workshop that you did, you talked about 5 plays, and this was a market reality check for today, 2025. What do we need to do different to grow? And it was really cool to see all the different strategies that you laid out, because it ties into a lot of what we've been doing here in our staffing organization. And so I want to spend just a few minutes talking about this market reality check that you shared during the summit, and start out with some of these plays, like using talent as your unique value proposition, source smarter to protect your margin, thought leadership, niche harder and smarter using AI. So Dave, can we dive into this a little bit, share some of the playbook with the audience?
Yeah. I think the one that I'm most fond of, but also I think is probably most impactful from what I can see from my perspective, is we're seeing a shift in the market where, I think historically the staffing industry has competed on speed and price. Where it's how fast can we get you the talent you need? And I think that works when there's excess demand. That's a great, you can grow, you can scale if you can be faster when there's excess demand for the services. The second that there's not as much demand for staffing services, you really need to think about differentiating in unique ways. And I think thought leadership is one that you're excelling at and doing, have an unbelievable playbook. I think we should actually talk through that as well after this, the experience design, some of the things you're doing with the giveaways. One thing that we're seeing as a way to differentiate on quality, which I think is a way to hold margin, is people are shifting where they're getting the talent from. Instead of just saying, we're going to go to Indeed just like everybody else, we're going to go to Vivian or the job boards just like everybody else. They're saying, how do I actually curate and hold on to a talent community that is unique to our agency and that is a higher quality network than what you have access to? I know my own experience when it was last November, I was looking at hiring a senior engineer. And I have plenty of friends in the staffing agency. So I was like, well, I'll talk to one of my IT staffing friends and let them know I'm doing it. I was like, I'm also going to post the job online. I actually told him at first, I'm like, I think I can just post online and, I'll get it done. And he's like, well, he's like, I can call like 10 people that are going to be highly qualified for your role today. He's like, I don't even have to go post it. I just know what you're doing and I know these people. I was like, well, then I'm absolutely going to give that a shot and I'll see if he can beat the job board. And he did. He crushed the job.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he won. he won. And the job board came in with, I had like 350 applications. I would say 40% of them were like one-click applies through just like not even qualified. Spent a bunch of time trying to figure out how to weed it down. And it's just, all the reasons that staffing firms exist. But I think the access to high quality talent, being able to show consistently, I have access to something that you don't have, is a really good way to increase margin, to hold margin, and to deliver value to your customer. And ways we're seeing customers do that is one of them is they're shifting and saying, we're going to focus on our referral network. Others are saying it's our direct sourcing. And we've already built this database. We can just go direct to the database that we have built. But start looking at what's the average time on contract based off of the source of the hire. And the thing that I've heard from a few of our customers is they're like, well, we know this year probably going to be light on job orders. And we may only get 10,000 placements this year. Well, let's try to make sure that every one of those placements is as profitable as possible. And by that, I mean, they stay on contract longer, they redeploy at higher rates. And so really thinking about your network and being strategic about it. So you're focusing on where you can drive the most gross profit, which also happens to align with driving the most value for your customer. Because if they're staying on contract longer, the customer's going to be happier too. So I think there's this shift underway right now where people are just getting a little more strategic and looking at how do I differentiate on quality. And I think that, honestly, I think that's kind of the future of staffing is going to be what's the quality differentiator. I think speed and price are going to be, you're going to have to do it quick. Like that's going to be a must have in most instances, but if you can do it faster and also better, that allows you to then pull the lever on the price. So.
Yeah, no, you've brought up a lot of good points here. I want to go back on, it's not about time to fill as much as it used to be. And it's more of that quality of the hire, the time on assignment, and then the source of where you got those quality candidates. Was it your own internal database where you've got just people that you've identified that have redeployed and been successful in past assignments that are readily available or for the right opportunity to leave for that assignment? Having a good referral base, right? A referral incentive. I mean, that's your bread and butter. That's your business. And I know, we can talk about some of the data you shared at the summit on those that came through your referral network are staying on assignment much longer, which that's what our clients want. They want the quality talent. I asked the group, do we treat, if you got an order for 200 people today, which is pretty rare out there to get these days in light industrial and commercial staffing, but if you got an order of 200 people today and these were ASAP, got to get them filled as soon as possible. Are you going to source and onboard the talent like you did in 2019? Or are you going to do something different this time around? And it was really neat to hear just about everyone say, no, we would do it different. We would treat one hire, or we treat the 200 like one hire. We've got to get every hire right out of that 200. We want that length, that time on assignment. We want to make sure we get the right fit the first time with every hire out of that 200. Where in the past, David, 2019, we didn't do that. It was like
butts and seats.
Pulse. Okay, here's your assignment.
Well, and so here's something that, because especially coming from the marketing end, and both of you all have like a marketing background, um, it looks like now we're moving into a shift of omni-channel recruiting. Okay, where you are diversifying, where you're finding the good quality candidates. It could come from a job board, but you got to make sure you set up all of those knockout questions. And then it's also way more expensive if you want to go and put them in a certain slot where, let's just say, someone who has to have a certain certification, they will be the only person that will be shown these jobs, right? So that gets expensive. I know that because I get to deal with all the recruiting budget. But also when you have a referral program, have we tapped into our own database? So essentially recruiting is changing.
It's the first time in the state of staffing, we asked what is the most important ROI metric for new hires, and it's the first time I think in the 7 or 8 years we've been doing the report where quality of hire was the number one. It was 31% of people said quality of hire was the number one metric, and that has not been the case historically. So I think that the market has shifted, and it might go back the other way to where the speed is the most important thing. But right now, it's how do you get the right people in there, and especially when there's limited opportunities. So, and I think the omni-channel component of it isn't focus 100% of your efforts one place. It's how do you maybe bring them in from Indeed and then get them to redeploy and get them to refer, and how do you build the entire funnel of that and look at the right strategic mix of sourcing.
Oh, and a lot of it comes to down funnel metrics. And
Yeah.
so I go and I look at reports. It's like, all right, where are our best people coming from?
Right.
So out of X, Y, and Z applies from this source, how many and like what is the percentage? Because
Yeah.
that's where you're going to go shift your attention. But also it's like the whole quality of hires. If you know, like you have worked with some people, they maybe took a break or they've got certain something, or there's a new opportunity that popped up. That when I ran a 360 desk, it was smile and dial. Okay. But having that, like you said, with your friend, having those top 10 people right there,
Yeah.
beat the job board. It's huge. Recruiting's changing.
Yeah.
And we need to adapt.
I think the one of the metrics we talk about a lot, and we're seeing the value in it, is the concept of candidate lifetime value. It's the same as customer lifetime value, but applied to candidates, and it's something that if you start looking at that deeply, it will change how you source talent, and it will most likely change your strategy. It's kind of a foundational metric for SaaS companies, and one thing I feel like I've seen is typically SaaS is early adopter of marketing, high value marketing KPIs and different approaches. And then I feel like staffing kind of picks up on it down the road. I think that a few years from now, a lot of staffing agencies are going to be looking at their sourcing strategy very differently with a much stronger lens. I also see one of the things that we're a trend in staffing is that the more and more marketers are coming into the space. Staffing firms are starting to spend on marketing and digital plays in a more effective way. And I think that the Steve and Genevieve, you guys are proof that did I get it wrong?
So far off.
Just call me G Money. It's fine.
G Money. We hung out for a full day, and I was like, I think I'm going to nail it this time.
David, it took me like 3 months, so you're doing better than me already.
So I think what you guys are doing from a thought leadership perspective and the experience design with your clients and with your prospects is something worth talking about, and probably all of your listeners will get a lot of value out of that. So I think talking about some of those tactics and from the conference, I think there was like you had a few moments on the thought leadership side, and I think people got excited about the was it LCS? Was it a like, click, share or something? I can't remember.
Like, comment, message.
All right.
No, here's the thing. Let's talk about thought leadership for a minute. We shared, how to make the sales process fun, like make it enjoyable. Like how do you make a sales process in our business enjoyable? And we have not figured that out. We have isolated small puzzle pieces through the process, and have gotten really good at those. And now we're looking for the next puzzle pieces. But one of those things, as part of making the process fun, is after a productive discovery meeting that your sales rep has, you hand deliver or ship, depending on the location, what we call a shock and awe box. And the idea is to create shock and awe. So they get this box, it's Yes branded, it's got lots of, superhero stuff on it. You open it up, there's a story about Yes and how we've helped customers just like them. There's a handwritten note from the sales rep. There's a 3D printed Yeti they can place on their desk. People freaking love our mascot. And then we've got some swag in there, and it's just our way of thanking them for their time, and it's just making the experience a little bit more enjoyable and less salesy. But now we've isolated more of those puzzle pieces since we last spoke, David. Now we have 3 shock and awe boxes, but it's not the same box, it's not the same product, but it starts off small. So initial meeting, just a meet and greet. We don't have a discovery meeting. It's just a little box that has a Yes sticker, a pen, right, and some sticky notes, something like that. And then we go and we have a discovery meeting later on down the road, and we've got the traditional box that I spoke about a minute ago, and then we've got a post shock and awe box after we've delivered on what we've promised. And I'm not going to give the details on that box because it's still in the works, but we're starting to piece these puzzles. Yeah, we're just making it enjoyable. We want people to want to work with us, and you can't build that trust during the sales process. It's post sales after you've delivered on what you promised, but you can speed up that process of building that trust by making it an enjoyable experience from start to finish.
And I think the funny part is direct mail was so overused. Direct mail, physical handouts, at one point everybody was doing it, and it kind of got it just wasn't working as well. And now I think there's stats showing that because of the ease of SMS automation, email automation, that physical handouts, physical mail, like things that you can do if you're dropping by, it's having a bigger impact. And I've heard anecdotally a lot of stories from smaller light industrial branches who are saying, I'm knocking on it door, I'm going door to door, and that's giving me the best results right now. And I think that it's like, how do you do something zig when everybody else is zagging? It's kind of the move. So
do something that makes you stand out, okay? And also, these are Post-its.
Yeah.
All right. Guess what? I use Post-its all the time.
Yep.
Everyone does. And so this is useful, and it has a QR code on it.
That's right. Yeah.
Smart branded just materials. People will use certain things. So it's not just something that's going to make them think of us every time, but we in the marketing side, we've been very thoughtful about what's actually going to add value, what's going to be something that sticks on their desk that they see every day.
Yep.
Every touch point, being very thoughtful about every touch point, even your ad on LinkedIn or your ad on Meta, the way you show up, how you're dressed, what you drop off, what you share, insights, every touch point is been thought out, planned out, and has been all pieced together. We talked about, David, during the Sales Summit, the traditional buyer's journey in our business. And, there's several steps. And the goal is with thought leadership is, how do you springboard to the 5th part of that 8 or 10, step process of the buyer journey, so you can become, you're on their day one list. And so, we had a large customer that we wanted to go after, but their margins were low, and they had lots of competitors in the building, and we weren't willing to move on those margins. And so instead of prospecting them and trying to get them and maybe, meeting them at a lower markup, well, we brought them to our HR event, and educated and let them talk among their peers and learn from each other. And, that was our first step in the journey of having them get to know us and us to get to know them. And so we went from spending 2 hours with this customer among their peers to the next day getting a new contract signed with them at a 5 percentage points higher than the people in the building. So we skipped all of that noise and just got straight to providing value for them.
Yeah, I think the day one list is something that people in staffing, I get so much outreach of just, can we help you with a job order? It's just so bland and not impactful, even when I've had jobs posted. I think making sure that you are out there, and when people are like, oh yeah, I do need help hiring. If you're not part of that immediate list, I think it was Eric Gregg that clearly rated it. It was like something like a 90% of the people. I don't remember the exact data, but
92%.
92% of the selections end up going to somebody who's already top of mind. And so if you're not top of mind in that moment, your odds of getting the deal are very low. So and probably by the time the RFP goes out, you might just be somebody who's getting a chance to compete with somebody they've already selected. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really the name of the game right now. I think is we have to be on our customers' day one list, our prospects' day one list, and that just doesn't happen by happenstance. You don't just walk in and they're like, oh, I'm so glad you came here, David. We hate our agency. We're ready to sign. Like, that just doesn't happen. And when they're ready to make that change, they have 1 to 2 agencies on speed dial. They know exactly who they're going to call because they've done their research. You've impressed them in many different ways through the journey, whether it's just interactions in person or online, or through your omni-channel presence, through your marketing efforts, maybe through their own referral network, right? We asked some HR leaders, like, how does a sales rep you've never met get like 5 more minutes of your time? Do you know what they said?
I don't.
They said, you won't. You're not going to get 5 minutes more of my time if you're some person I've never met and you just knocked on my door and happened to catch me.
Unless if you got a referral.
Unless you got a referral. Unless you were referred to them.
Yeah.
Someone they know and trust. Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's
a big part of it. Because building relationships and trust, that's the biggest part about trying to get onto that day one list. But you're not going to be able to do it if you're just showing up randomly, bringing donuts, being like, "Hey, everyone, how are you?"
Well, that doesn't
chasing them to their car.
All right, David, let's do some more of your plays from your market reality check in 2025. We've talked about using your talent as your unique value proposition. Talked a little bit about sourcing smarter. We just talked on thought leadership.
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to jump into thought leadership?
Well, we talked a little bit on that, but you've got more to share, please.
Well, I mean, the one area where I think if you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out, like, how do I get more sales, which is what I know it's the number one challenge for staffing agencies right now. Talent is still difficult depending on what market you're in, but I think that the differentiation in terms of your specialization, I mean, this feels like pretty basic. Maybe you've heard it a million times, but I don't think how everybody understands how deep you can go into your specialization. I have a lot of conversations with people who will say, yeah, we do light industrial, and we pretty much everything in light industrial. And that's great. And that is, I like everything to means you nothing. I'm drawing a blank on the quote for that one too. But when you are thinking about who you serve and how you serve your clients, it's really important to be known for something. Like, what is the one thing that you're the absolute best at? And aligning that with what the market needs are, with what the market demands. And I think that can go down to an individual job title and or an individual vertical. And I think that the deeper you go into specialization, that's where I talk to so many different staffing agencies, and the ones that are having more success right now, I would label it into the 2 main categories. One is they're doing thought leadership. They're approaching the candidate experience in a unique way. And we did a case study recently with a company that has literally told their recruiters to spend an hour talking to nurses on assignment, that they put on assignment, and get to know them and their family, and actually show up differently and spend time doing that versus spending time trying to source new ones, and that is working for them. They grew last year despite kind of the market trends. And then the other side of that is looking at what really niche down approach, where can you be the absolute best, and what market is that, what job title is that. If you're an IT staffing firm, I know that when I was hiring Ruby on Rails developers, and when I searched Ruby on Rails staffing agency, and there's people that specialize in it, and I'm talking to those guys, like that's like this is what they do. They must be the best at this specific thing. And so I think niching down, whether it's on the vertical side of it, I've heard some that are like, we basically do private equity and accounting finance for private equity. Like that's super tight niche, but those the little kind of tight categories where I'm hearing more excitement about the staffing industry versus kind of the traditional, like we'll take all of these roles. And when I say this, it doesn't mean you don't do the other things, but it's what is the thing that you are known for, and how do you align that with the market and what the market demands. And I think, Stephen, you've actually got I think you've done some of this work and shared it on our podcast, where you've spent some time kind of down and being really strategic about it as well.
Yeah, this is a story I read in Alan Dibb's book, One Page Marketing Plan. If you're hiring a photographer for your wedding, right? A wedding photographer. So you're on Google, or now you're in ChatGPT, because that's where we're doing our Google searches now. And you're like, wedding photographer near me, or top rated wedding photographers. And, you get a site that pulls up, and it's like, oh, I do business photography and headshots and weddings. And I do cats, and I do parrots, and, I do nature. And so you're just a photographer. You could take pictures of anything, right? But if I'm looking for a wedding photographer, I'm not going to go to this guy that does everything and it looks like he's good at it. But no, I want someone, this is my special day. I want someone that's only does weddings, because I think I'm going to get the best quality. And so you could say, I do light industrial staffing, but you're just saying you're a photographer, right?
Yes.
What type of photographer are you? And that's what you need to get clear on. And I get that it's hard to find business right now, so you're going to take anything and everything that comes your way. But is that really an effective strategy long term? Is that predictable revenue for your firm? And the answer is probably no.
It's not. You got to niche down. And I can go and tell you, when it comes to photographers, it's like, I've got my fur babies, right? I know someone who only does pet photography. That's it. That's all she does. And I got to tell you, she's got a really large house up on the lake. Oh yeah, no, I'm serious.
Yeah, no,
that's all she does.
That's just the buying journey. We're looking for that expertise to help us solve this problem. And so when you look at since we're in the light industrial and commercial space, what are some of your services that you are just the best at? Like, okay, all light industrial staffing firms can offer an on-site manager, on-site services. But what if your on-site manager program, you only hire qualified HR managers? Like they've got a degree, they've got the certifications, they've got the experience, and you have an HR manager that's managing that large workforce and working in tandem with the client's HR team. Like, now that's a niche, right? That is something very different that the rest of the firms are not doing. You're still doing the same staffing, but you're just delivering your services at a much greater way.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the ways to be known for the day one list too. It's like, all right, well, if this is what you do, this is the thing you're known for. When somebody goes to hire for that, you can still take some of the other orders too. It doesn't necessarily. I think people are always afraid of, well, if we say we do that, are we still going to get the other job orders? And probably, customers are going to be like excited to work with you, and you're like, this is where we specialize, but we also have these elements too. And it's also one of the reasons that if you look at all the largest firms, they don't all run the same recruiters across all the different verticals. They have specialization in that. I think the deeper you go into it, the better. So
is that what you're seeing out there with your network and all of your clients? Do you see the ones that really niche harder and smarter, their firms are growing?
Either that or own an MSP.
Yeah, own an MSP. Yeah, let's work on that one.
Well, I think there's technology plays that can change it as well. But anecdotally, that's one of the things that I'm hearing where I hear more excitement, or we grew by this much, is people are they're not running the same play as everybody else, and they're recognizing that the market has shifted and they're shifting with it. So I think go back to the adapting to current needs, adapting to how do we approach this differently is I think a core element of that. I think niche, being hyper focused and specialized, is one of the ways you can do it. Shifting your talent base, thought leadership is another way. I mean, all these things get you on that day one list to make sure that when a client does need help, they're thinking about you in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, Genevieve, you probably remember this in the summit. We're talking about thought leadership, and one part of that strategy is your social awareness, creating that social awareness. And it was interesting when we talked to the group, and how many of you are think you do really well at your social awareness play, and there's maybe like one or two hands that were raised and the rest were just really quiet. And so for me, I see that as an opportunity to just go harder on our thought leadership strategy, because people are fearful and putting themselves out there. They're afraid to post on LinkedIn. They're afraid to post on other social channels. They don't have a strategy. They know it works because it works on them. That's how they buy. They just don't know. They don't know how to do it themselves, or they're just not willing to put in the effort for a variety of reasons.
What did I keep on saying? Do you remember? I know it was not that long ago.
Put me on the spot.
Me? Oh no, I'll put both of you on the spot. I have no problem.
What did you keep saying?
A lot of amazing
Unify
things.
with your marketing team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Unify with your marketing team, especially in sales. Okay. Unify with your marketing team, because they can go and assist you when it comes to social selling. And then on top of that, also make sure that you're time blocking. But what you want to do is establish and create the fact that you are a credible source. You are adding value, but also it makes you an authority. But be genuine. Okay. And like Steve is great with this, where he's like, oh, hey, this is where I fixed my backyard with whatever problem you had.
My
AI.
irrigation system, I used AI to help me locate the leak in the precise spot in my yard.
Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, he was teaching his son, who's a little entrepreneur, with a really funny lawnmower flyer. Like just a little entrepreneur. He was just teaching him sales and just putting those genuine things, because it shows that you're just an actual normal human being like the rest of us. Okay. But add value, be authentic, establish credibility, but work with your marketing team and unify. I'm serious.
I completely agree. And if you don't have a marketing team, hire somebody for marketing. Start thinking about digital marketing, because it's it matters more than ever, and that trend is not going away.
And things are transferring from SEO over to AEO.
Yep.
And so that's where you're going to need your marketing people to help out. This way people can find your business, find out who you are.
Remind our audience what AEO is.
AEO, essentially, it's a artificial intelligence optimization engine.
So SEO for our
Search
new search engines called ChatGPT or Gemini, you've got to have the right keywords. So when they're looking for best healthcare staffing agency near me, when they're looking at in their, in ChatGPT, you show up.
Mm-hmm.
It's the new game. I looked at our traffic through Staffing Referrals. I think ChatGPT was one of our third or fourth traffic sources.
No kidding.
It was it's crazy. So I mean that is changing. It's happening. People are finding you through different ways. They're finding you through chat, and I think we're just at the beginning stages of it. So the nice part, as of today, it looks like a lot of the fundamentals of SEO end up winning on AEO or ChatGPT SEO at the moment, but we'll see how that changes. It's definitely going to change over time.
It's developing, and it's developing fast.
Yeah.
It really is, and that's where the other week we were talking. It's one of those things you've got to adapt, you've got to evolve. and just try to learn. There's so many different tools out there and it's overwhelming, but just in your free time, try to learn 1 or 2 a month and see if it's going to work. If it's not going to work for you, then don't do it.
Yes, start with the end goal in mind, right? Like, what am I trying to accomplish? And then let's find the tools that are going to help me accomplish that task versus let's just try everything. And then, I'm telling this to myself because I just try every AI thing and I have fun with it. And I'm like, how does it work over here? I'm not starting with the end goal in mind, but it is inspiring me of like, wow, this could create something different and this could help me with this problem. But we should be starting with the end goal in mind.
All right, we got to do this. We got to do this. And then it's like 18 more projects on my plate.
It is, testing all the tools is definitely something that I'm like, I need to go check my subscriptions because I'm like, oh, I'll do a free trial. Let's see what it looks like. See what the tool does. So
yeah, you don't even want to look at my credit card statement. There's like 20 different AI tools that I forgot to cancel.
Yep.
Well, we're coming up on time here. I can't believe how fast we've moved through this conversation. It's been a lot of fun. I'd like to do a rapid fire with you, David, because you did that with me on your show and it put me on the spot. And I'm like, oh, crap, I got to come up with something.
I always feel bad when I do it to people because I suck at this part. So that's the fun.
The tables have been turned.
Yeah.
All right. So one question I often hear on your podcast to your guests is what's one book that's really been influential in their career? And so I want to ask you that same question. What's one book that's been influential in your career?
Yeah. It's called Influence. So it's by Cialdini. And he also has a book called Pre-Influence as well. I think it's either 2 or 3 books. I think they're foundational books, not just career-wise, but like existing as a human in society. They're like valuable for understanding what are the psychological levers that change our minds, that make us make decisions. What are the subconscious elements of decision making? It helps, 1, with understanding sales and marketing. 2, it helps with not being sold things you shouldn't buy. And also, and it's kind of foundational for, I used to have it where with our marketing agency, that was a must read month 1, because I think it's so important. And it's a cool background to Cialdini was I don't remember what, like a psychology professor who decided he wanted to go out and learn the tools of the trade. And so he like went out and sold, did door-to-door sales and learned from people, like how do they do it? What are the tactics? Like, and studied it in real life and then shares those stories.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Okay. I don't think I've read a lot of books and I don't think I've read that book. And if I have, it was maybe too long ago.
Yeah.
Well, and so that actually makes me go and think about a book. It's called Biology. Okay. It's all about.
Oh, like BIO biology?
No, BUY. It's all about like sales and marketing. One of my favorite books. And so with what you were just talking about from Influence, I think that would be a great read. And now I need to go read Influence.
And I'm checking out Biology.
I have some biology books back here, but it's not the same one as
No, we're talking about buying and spending.
Yeah.
Okay. So no molecular biology in the book.
Oh, no, but it's about consumer behavior and things like that and trends. And then it does have a lot of the psychological push to it and different ways that you can go and adapt. So, all right, we'll talk about that. I think we need
some like referral links for all these books we drop in the different conversations.
Amazon has an affiliate program. You can go sign up and drop the links and then make some money off of it.
There we go.
Affiliate links of the future.
Well, last question, and maybe Genevieve can get, if she has a question, she can make it the last question. But my last question to you, David, I want you to, think for a second, picture yourself as the small boutique firm that's out there, whether it's healthcare, IT, commercial, the trades. They're struggling. They have been for the last 30 plus months. What's one piece of advice that you could give that firm owner right now that's tuning into the podcast today?
I'm gonna jump right in because I feel like I've the first thing that I did with I used to run a marketing agency, and step one for figuring out how to drive growth was pretty consistently the same thing, which was let's figure out who loves us. Let's do a net promoter score, or let's do a survey, and let's figure out who are our top customers. And what most people do is they get a net promoter score and they get all the detractors, and then they go out there and try to fix all of their problems. And that is useful, but even more useful is to say, okay, who are all the people that love us? Now let's go sit down and have a lunch with all of the people that love us and talk about why do they love us? What is the background? What is it about us that makes us a good fit for them? And then let's try to figure out who. This is now our ICP, our ideal customer profile. We've defined it, validated it with data, validated it with conversations, and now let's go try to find more of these people. And I think that's what my step one would be for all of the agencies that are struggling, is like get closer to the customer, get closer to the conversation, and especially the ones that love you, and understand the why. I think, Steve, when you were on, this kind of funny is we have marketer brains, but when you're on the podcast on our side, you were talking about how you did exactly that.
Yeah.
Like you found one of your top customers, sat down, learned from them, and went out and understood it. And that is, it's a proven playbook that it works. Figure out the details of it, figure out how you can find more people like them, and that can help you design your go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, you need an ICP, ideal customer profile. Ours is Ron Christensen. We're actually meeting, so we did this a year ago, and we had Ron Christensen posted in our office, his face everywhere. We sat down at lunch and interviewed him, personal and professional questions, and we're going to be doing this again in a month. We're going to sit down and go through the whole workshop again and go, okay, did anything change? Did our ICP change at all? So who is the next Ron Christensen, or is it still Ron Christensen? And if it isn't Ron Christensen, if it's someone else, we're going to do a deep dive into that customer profile, and we're going to start strategizing our business around our ICP, not around a product, around our ideal customer profile. So thank you, David. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Genevieve, did you have a last minute question for him before we jump off?
Well, I was about to say, I think we're just going to go through quick, high level, kind of play by play quickly.
Okay.
Because I've got a billion questions, but I know that we'll be here for like a billion hours.
Bring us home.
All right. So first and foremost, thank you so very much for joining us today. But I think a lot of the key takeaways right now are, all right, adaptation is the key to growth. Okay. All right. Don't be fearful of it. Right now, we've got to make sure that we're using our feedback and our data, thought leadership, being meaningful about what we are doing. Figure out your niche, figure out your vertical, your ICP. All right. And then niche down even more. And then we also did go and talk about omni-channel recruiting. All right. Because it goes back to the ROI, which instead of our previous clients going and thinking price and speed, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to quality of hire. That is more important. That's going to help you get on the day one list and stay on the day one list. So definitely really leaning in and diversifying how you are doing your recruiting, but identifying and using that data and making sure that your clients are happy, and then talking to them and getting that space and figure out why they continue using you, and then niche down even more. Did I miss anything?
Pretty good.
You dialed it in.
Always bringing it home for us, giving us the playbook.
Well, I take notes.
So again, David, thank you so much. If you guys are not following him on LinkedIn, make sure you do. Go check out the Staffing Hub. Go check out the Staffing Show podcast, phenomenal podcast, and Staffing Referrals. If you want to look at not only getting associate referrals for longer time on assignment for the retention purposes, but also for B2B. If you're looking to, like our HR leaders that we interviewed told us you want an audience, get a referral from someone they know and trust, and Staffing Referrals can help you do that. And so with that, have a fantastic weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next Friday.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching today's episode. This episode is sponsored by Staffing Referrals. We have relied on Staffing Referrals for years to turn satisfied associates into brand ambassadors, keeping quality talent coming in and lift retention. See what it can do for you at staffingreferrals.com or click on the link in the description. Thanks for watching.